Hello and welcome to, what's the name of the show? Every horror movie on Netflix. We watch, we discuss, we review every horror movie on Netflix. My name's...
No. Come on, Chris. We're gonna listen back to this episode and be like, holy shit, we sound like we were crawling to the starting line like sacks of shit.
Wow, there must have been a coup last night. We're exhausted. Imagine that.
All right. Hello and welcome to Every Horror Movie on Netflix, the show where we watch, review, and discuss every horror movie on Netflix. Back again, it's me, Chris, and I'm here with Patrick.
Hey.
And I'm here with Steven.
Hi.
And yeah, well, what the hell, guys? How you guys been?
Well, I mean, you know, we're recording this the day after the literal horror of the siege on our nation's capital. So
we all watched The Purge yesterday on CNN.
Pretty much.
And I'm sure by the time this episode comes out, there'll be like The Purge 2, The Purge 3, The Purge 4, Inauguration Day.
Quite possibly The Purge election year all over again.
Could be Mad Max by the time this episode comes out.
I know this for certain. Our current anxieties will be made irrelevant by the time this comes out. I don't know what the fuck is in the pipeline, but this is just going to be a blip in a week or so.
Yeah.
Well, it's as usual. I'm sure we're all drowning out the real life anxieties with fictitious anxieties. Has anybody, participated in any horror culture since the last time we got together?
Yeah, I finally brought my Hannibal Lecter journey full circle today by watching 2007's Hannibal Rising. The prequel film about young Hannibal. I think this is the only piece of Hannibal Lecter media that I have yet to consume. Well, actually, other than the book Hannibal Rising, which after watching the film, I have zero desire to read.
Wait, can I ask a question? Does Thomas Harris have anything to do with that? Did he write a book for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. No, this is the fucked up part, is that Dino De Laurentiis, pretty openly said that he basically threatened Thomas Harris to write the book. It was basically I'm going to make a movie, so you had better write a book if you want to have any sway over this story. So Harris essentially wrote the book so that he could be involved somehow in his own character.
Jesus, Thomas Harris needs a better agent and manager or something. Like, that sounds like a really fucked up relationship.
Thomas Harris is a fascinating dude. I learned that he's extremely reclusive. He did not give... according to his Wikipedia, he did not give an interview between the years, I think it was 1976 and 2019. So he just, is not out there and does not talk about anything, which is fascinating to me. But yeah, short review of the movie. It sucked.
I did not hear good things. I've never been compelled to see it, and thank you for giving me a final reason not to waste my time.
I mean, it's classic, Mr. Zombie's Halloween kind of scenario where it's okay, this character is highly entertaining as a flamboyant, magnetic supporting character, or in the Hannibal TV series, he's a lead, but still is very much like the Yang to Will Graham's Yang. Who wants to watch 2 hours about this guy's fucking childhood trauma that influenced how and why he became a cannibal? Also, there's a hilarious scene where he puts on a mask that looks like the famous mask that he wears in The Silence of the Lambs, and has this sort of orgasmic sort of moment of coming into his being, and it's wait, this mask, this character does not have any special bond to this mask. This mask is put on him because he's a cannibal.
Right.
You're only just throwing dog food to the fans here. It's a very strange creation.
Well, and I think isn't he wearing the mask in the poster?
Yes.
Isn't the poster a close-up of the mask? Yeah, it makes no fucking sense.
Yeah.
Damn dog food fans destroying our franchises. I need to register in passing that I do love Rob Zombie's Halloween. So
you mean Mr. Zombie?
I will register I will log a futile objection to that point. But yeah, there's also this, TV series coming out, Clarice, I think on NBC. Holy shit! What a misstep. But it's like, I don't know.
I found out about that the other day. I think because one of you said something about it, and I was very upset for a while. And now I'm upset that you've reminded me of it.
And they're like, it's not going to have any Hannibal Lecter in it. This is about Clarice Starling. It's like, who gives a shit about Clarice Starling? She's just a foil for Hannibal Lecter.
I mean, I could get into a discussion about that all day. I don't disagree. I could get into a discussion about it all day, but it's not for this episode.
And you know that, like, maybe by the I'll give it the first season finale at the latest. She's gonna like find the mask and be like, who left this at the scene? It'll be the cannibal mask.
Yeah, fucking James Spader as Hannibal Lecter.
Okay, say no more.
I take back everything I said. I'm in.
I mean, that's basically the Blacklist, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Steven, how about you? Anything new in your horror of a life?
I have two things, Patrick.
You have two things to say about this.
Two things to say. Thank you for passing the baton. One is semi-related. You know, I've still been revisiting the Hannibal TV series, but I don't know if I mentioned this on the show before, but I've at least mentioned it to you, Patrick, offcast. There's a really fantastic podcast that Eric Vespi and Scott Wampler, formerly of Birth Movies Death, started, called the King Cast, where every episode they revisit one of Stephen King's works that has been adapted into film or television. And they've had just an all-star roster of guests, always an amazing conversation, often very funny. And Brian Fuller blew people's minds early on with his kind of homoerotic take on Salem's Lot. And he came back a couple of weeks ago to talk about Christine. And holy shit. Like, this guy not only is just a firebrand and full of ideas and energy and hot takes, but he completely changed how I interpreted the movie. I haven't read the book, but he's got some pretty hot takes about that too, and how it diverges from the movie. A really fun conversation. If you have any interest in King, Christine, or Brian Fuller, the madman himself, definitely check out that episode. It is just a pure delight start to finish.
Definitely on my queue at some point. I'm excited.
I kind of had a similar experience where I listened to an episode of the Faculty of Horror podcast, which I enjoy a lot. They were talking about Let the Right One In. This is from years ago, which I saw that movie pretty recently. And within the first 5 minutes of this episode, they were dropping some insight and information about Let the Right One In that blew my mind and will forever change the way I look at that movie, based on what they had read in the book that the movie was based on.
You did text us about this, Chris, and I am going to listen to that episode. I've bookmarked it. I haven't gotten into it yet this week, but can you give me a little tease?
I can't even give you a tease.
Okay,
no spoilers.
Okay, cool. I'm very excited because I really liked the movie. I was kind of like left lukewarm by the end, but I thought it seemed pretty straightforward. I have no idea what I'm in for.
There's a lot to unpack in that movie, but some, at least one or two bombshells.
I feel like I should rewatch the movie before I listen to the episode, because I saw that in theaters and remember only the vaguest, the basic plot, which from what I remember, it's kind of a simple movie, but also from what you're saying, it sounds like they find a lot of complication to it. Every
time I listen to them, I want to rewatch the movie afterwards, so you might want to just listen to them and then rewatch the movie.
Yeah, that's a great show. I do have one more thing, because I did say I have two. Also in the Stephen King universe, still been plugging away reading The Stand. I'm only about halfway through the original version, not the 1,200 page version that was later released. Thoroughly enjoying it. But
wait, is there a longer version that was later released, or is that shorter?
So he turned in like an 1,100 or 1,200 page version, which I didn't even realize until a couple of days ago. That was his fourth novel, and he took that big of a swing. And the publishers, I think it was Doubleday, they were like, "You gotta fucking trim this down. This is way too much. But then the version that is, people are kind of like chiding me about this now, especially fans of the book that I have in my life. The only accepted version now is, I think in the late 80s he released like the extended uncut version of it. And that's the only one you can buy now. But a while ago I found the original paperback copy, Signet or Doubleday, with like, you know, the Stephen King book covers in the 70s and 80s had this classic look to them and this iconic art, and I was like, I have to buy this. And I kind of like reading it, feeling like I'm reading what people got when it first came out and when it first became this huge hit. But while I've been reading that, I've also been watching CBS All Access's Stand mini series. I don't know what to call it. It's not quite a mini series. It's 9 episodes apparently. And that's been a kind of a fascinating experience as well, because it completely reconfigures the story, the way the story is told in the book. The book is told like one character at a time while things are happening simultaneously, but you focus on one character at a time and their journey, and you jump to another, and it feels like you're playing hopscotch. And the show from the outset is like flashbacks and flashbacks within flashbacks and jumping into the future, and it's kind of a fucking mess. It hasn't spoiled anything for me so far. I think I'm like just far enough into the book that I can keep reading and keep watching the show, but it just kind of amazes me that there are some King properties that people just can't get right. There's something about his writing, the way he develops characters and gets inside their heads. Even though he's not great at plot, even still, his inscrutable style of staging a plot is just not translatable to the screen for some of his works.
Well, you know, I haven't read a ton of Stephen King, but a lot of what I have read kind of hinges on themes of like loneliness in some sort of way, and a lot of internal, and I'm thinking about 11/22/63, Pet Cemetery in a lot of ways. He's got the one book about the girl who's lost in the woods, stuff where it's like, you know, characters left to themselves a lot, and a lot of their internal thinking.
Gerald's Game.
yeah. Talk about being left to yourself.
Right? And so it's kind of hard to adapt that to the screen when so much is going on inside a character's head and there's not a lot of action, you know?
The Stand so far is very action heavy. Like, he does a great job of getting inside the character's head. I'm talking about the book. He does a great job of really developing the characters, making them feel real, like you know them, you can picture them perfectly, you can understand why they make the choices they make, but he doesn't rest on that. He gives you the action too. You know, he gives you the dog food that you're hoping for pretty quickly. There's not a lot of beating around the bush, and the show just doesn't seem like it trusts the way that he tells the story in the book. So that's what I've been up to horror-wise. Chris, you got anything?
Actually, a couple, but I'll only mention one for the sake of time. I watched Scream Queen finally.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
It's been talked to death on our show, so I don't know if I have much more to add to it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting. Something that was kind of really beside the point, but that really always captures my attention. I've also watched most of Never Sleep Again, the whole documentary on the whole Elm Street franchise.
I've seen that too. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Something that strikes me about both of those documentaries is how much fun Robert Englund is as an interviewee.
Yeah.
And how much thought he put into every bit of his performance as Freddy Krueger. It's like, I guess that's what happens when you get a classically trained actor and you ruin his life to have him in your movie as a boogeyman.
He is very like, I love the thing. One of the things that stands out to me the most about Scream Queen is when he's like discussing like his thought process behind the way Freddy gesticulates in the movie, and he even turns the word homoerotic into like the most theatrical sounding thing you can possibly imagine. Like, I can't even do his pronunciation of that word justice, and it's delightful because he is like a classically trained theatrical like stage actor, just like trapped in a shitty franchise movie trying to make the most of it.
There's no accidents in his performance, like he's making choices behind every little thing that Freddy does.
Well, so I don't know if you know this, but he's directed at least one movie. He directed himself in a version of Phantom of the Opera, and I am dying to see what that looks like.
Is he the Phantom?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Wow. Well, we've talked about real world horror. We've talked about horror movies. A little bit of good news before we jump into our horror movie discussion of the week. We actually got a really sweet message on New Year's Eve, of all things, from a fan, a little bit of fan mail, and this anonymous fan who chose to remain anonymous said we could share this on the episode, so I'll do that now. They messaged us, "I hope this isn't an odd message to send, but I thought it could be good to say. I have obsessive compulsive disorder, and so when I'm panicked or anxious, there are certain things I turn to that make me feel safe and comfortable again. I wanted to let you know that your podcast has been consistently my main source of comfort over the course of the pandemic. It has really helped me a lot, so thanks for putting it out there. Love the show so much, and I look forward to everything you put out in the future." And, I mean, speaking only for myself, I was very touched and a little bit bowled over by this message. It's kind of, we're still, we've been doing this for 3 years. I still have this general feeling that, 5 people listen to our podcast in general, but it's always touching to hear that somebody listens to us on a regular basis and that we could provide some sort of little bit of stability for them. So thank you.
Yeah, that was really touching to me as well. I've one of my closest friends suffers from OCD. I don't know that he would be comforted by hearing my voice listening to this podcast, but I feel I have a pretty intimate understanding of the disorder, and it really just warms my heart that someone suffering from that can find comfort in our show. It just bowled me over to hear that.
I mean, I live with OCD, and I am not comforted by hearing our voices on this podcast ever, but I'm glad that someone is.
Yeah, I'm really touched by that as well, and I can't understand it because it's like, listen to me brings you comfort, but but no, it's nice that when you put something like this out there, and really when we started this, we had no plan, and we still don't have a plan. It's just like, I'm gonna do this, we're gonna put it out there, and if we build it, if someone wants to listen, they can listen. But it's really cool that we can have such a profound impact on someone's life, and make the hellscape that we are in a little less hellish.
That's amazing.
Absolutely. So, what the fuck mundane ass movie did we watch, and are we now going to have a mundane ass discussion about this episode?
I don't know, but we went back in time a little bit to the year 2015, which doesn't seem that long ago, but it certainly is long ago when you're dealing with the internet. And we watched 2015's Unfriended, the screen capture horror phenomenon. It was a large success when it hit the theaters.
Massive success.
Patrick and I actually caught it at an advanced critic screening back when he was doing that sort of thing, and he was letting me come to some of them. Mm-hmm. We saw it on the big screen, and so this was our second go around. Stephen, this is your first go around, right?
My first, yes. I was familiar with it, and it's been getting. I actually wanted to watch it independently of the podcast recently because it's come up on a couple of my horror podcasts as kind of a movie that does some people that I follow feel deserves more credit than it got.
Well, if there's any movie that's been recontextualized in the last 5 years in a big way, I think it's Unfriended, because one of the reasons I picked this movie for this week is because this is our life now. We're on Zoom all the time. We got the pandemic going on. The video conferencing world is a lot more relatable to people than it was 5 years ago. Also, I was shocked watching this movie at how much about the internet has changed in this 5 years, and a lot of websites and technologies, and even Skype, which most of the movie is set on Skype, isn't used like it was in 2015. So it kind of just seemed like a time capsule in a way, even though it was, fairly recent.
I would argue that actually it still feels shockingly relevant. I feel like not that much has changed, but then again, I also was wondering at the same time, I'm a Mac user, and I'm very familiar with that interface. I wonder how someone who is not would feel about this. But I thought it still felt like pretty contemporary.
Yeah, I was also. I'm in that same boat, Steven. I thought it mostly seemed similar to the experience we have now. Obviously, Skype has kind of fallen to the rise of Zoom. The main thing that struck me as kind of an anachronistic detail was the Facebook layout. I was like, oh, it's been a little while since Facebook looked like that.
Right. Isn't it absurd how Microsoft blew like a 17-year lead in video conferencing to Zoom? Like they've been waiting their whole moment. Skype was the shit. And then the moment that everyone needed video conferencing, Zoom just ate Skype's lunch and they had no answer.
Yeah.
Well, before we get into all our subjective experiences with the movie, let's set this son of a bitch up. It's real simple, guys. We got
So simple.
We got a group of high schoolers. There's ultimately 6 of them. They're basically on a joint Skype call, hanging out on an average Monday night or whatever the hell. A year ago, one of their friends, Laura Barnes, commits suicide after she was cyber-bullied. An anonymous user put a video of her passed out at a party, drunk, acting a damn fool online.
She shit her pants. Notably,
the online crowd descended on her, told her to kill herself, and she did. So that happened a year ago, and now we're here on the anniversary of her death. And these kids have an unfamiliar anonymous guest on their Skype call that they can't seem to get rid of. And there's all kinds of little spooky messages going around. And it seems, my friends, like the ghost of Laura Barnes is back for revenge on Skype and Facebook at the same damn time.
Laura Barnes, the original Zoom bomber.
Well, and I think that's a great summary. The only other relevant detail that we should mention is that we experienced the entire film through the computer screen of one of the protagonists, one of the teens.
Blair,
that you were mentioning.
right?
Blair, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris, that was a marvelous summary. I mean, it is a pretty simple film, but it's also like, I guess it just feels effortless as you're watching it that all these pieces are there and fall together. But going back to the very beginning,
I mean, it's essentially the greatest one-shot film ever made. Eat your hearts out, Stanley Kubrick and Paul Thomas Anderson.
And Hitchcock. But we begin with Laura Barnes' suicide, with her fucking blowing her brains out. I was not ready for that shot. That immediately disturbed me. And I don't know that I've ever seen an opening of a film that just made me wonder why I should continue. I felt like I was immediately in unsafe hands.
Well,
Great.
I'm sure. Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to whether or not we thought it was great, but very disturbing and very effective, I have to say.
I feel like I have to kind of kick this off with a note on presentation.
Oh, yes.
So, as Chris mentioned, he and I saw this film at a critics screening when I was still reviewing movies. Chris was successfully marketed to by this movie, of course, because you didn't go to many critics screenings with me, but you were like, I want to see fucking Unfriended with you. I was like, okay.
Yes.
So we saw it in the theater, and I was not a fan. But when you picked this movie last episode, Chris, you were like, you got to watch it in dark, in your bed, on a laptop. I was like,
yeah.
Okay. You're sometimes a little demanding, Chris, about viewing choices. And
this guy, Patrick, will watch, the darkest, grimmest, scary. He'll watch a dark song at 2 in the afternoon with the sun streaming through his blinds.
Yeah, fuck that. Fuck
true
that.
as fuck. True as fuck. And you know what I watched in the middle of the goddamn day? Cargo.
Well, that movie takes place in the middle of the goddamn day, so that's fine.
Well, you have specifically said horror movies in general are not to be watched while the sun is up.
There's some that you can watch, but for the most part, no. I mean, even bare naked ladies knew to watch X-Files with the lights off. With no lights on.
Is this a song lyric I'm not familiar with?
Oh my God, Chris.
Well,
amazing.
We digress as a group, but Chris is sometimes a bit stringent about viewing preferences. But at the end of last episode, you said, watch this in the dark, watch it on your laptop, don't watch it on a big screen. I was like, yeah. But I also committed to the bit. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. and I watched it on my tablet. It was dark when I started watching it. I was fucking eating dinner, sitting at the dining room table. And you know what? You were fucking right. This is not meant to be watched on a fucking giant screen.
I can't imagine what it would be like to see it that way.
It is so much better when you're watching it on a small screen and you're like, wait, every like couple minutes I'd find myself going, oh wait, I look at the menu bar at the top and I go, wait, that's not the right time. I kept thinking like, oh, this is my screen. You know, it's designed for the new generation of you're watching on your personal screen. You're not watching on the big screen. It's much better that way.
I agree with you 100%. This time I took my...
Well, yeah, it was your idea.
Well, I'd never done it. I'd never done it before. I actually did it. I took my MacBook, which I haven't even used in months, charged it up just for this, took it into bed, opened it up, turned the little the keyboard light on just a little bit to add that extra atmosphere, and it was so much better than the theater. And I thought myself it was my like little like notifications would come up, and I would like almost go to like move them. And I'm like,
dude,
yes, I had that experience.
Same,
too. Yeah.
But watching it in the theater, it felt like it was like a fucking like work presentation or something. Like someone was just screen sharing onto a projector, basically.
And I think that contributed.
Yeah, you expect Steve Jobs to walk out on the stage.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, not to tip my hand on this because I do have criticisms of this movie, but suffice it to say, I had a vastly better experience with it, watching it on a small screen that was mine, that was held in my hands, that was controlled by me, and was not a giant screen, where there's more of that. You absorb more of that actual fear of, oh, that notification from Laura, shit, is that for me? You know, like, is Laura messaging me now? You have that, like, at least I had that millisecond of a response a few times, you know?
Oh, I had that. I watched it actually sitting right where I'm sitting right now in front of my laptop in my little cubby in my bedroom on the floor. And, like, I got tripped out. Like, there were a couple of times where I felt like, where I almost wanted to like click on the screen and like check my messages or whatever. It was definitely a more effective way to watch it. I cannot imagine seeing it on the big screen. I feel like it would just be overwhelming in a very strange way.
It was weird. It was very awkward, and it was very, I don't know. I got my panties in a twist about this. I think I did have a little bit of like, this is not cinema kind of vibes after we finished watching it. I was like, this is ugly. This is not to be watched on a theater screen, which I mean, really, it's not. I was right.
It's not. It's made for fucking teenagers who at the time were watching movies on their laptops or maybe on their phone. I can't imagine watching this on a phone though. That would be too much.
Yeah, well, there's so much little text and stuff that you're expected to read. Like people who will never watch a movie with subtitles will still watch Unfriended, even though they have to read twice as much and it's twice as hard to read. I even noticed watching on the MacBook that it's actually in a 16:10 aspect ratio instead of the 16:9 that a lot of stuff is. So it actually fills your MacBook screen.
It does.
It's supposed to.
It does. I mean, it completely mimicked what I'm used to. And at the same time, like, it was a fucking crazy night. I'm on social media. I'm texting people about this goddamn attempted coup last night and started kind of losing my mind about, like, what was reality and, like, what could I actually interact with on my screen.
Then you got a Facebook message from Donald Trump.
No. But that lasted a whole 5 minutes, and I was like, well, I should just be paying attention to the movie like I should always do when we're doing these things. But it was kind of trippy. Very well executed. Like it achieved the effect that it set out to have, like, pretty remarkably, I think, for being, as far as I know, the first mainstream movie to do, or movie in general, to be filmed in this sort of format. There have been several since, and I don't know that even those did it as well as this one did.
Yeah, I mean, the most obvious example is fucking Host, which we've talked about on this show, and I actually kind of went back and watched a little bit of it after I watched this, because I was like, okay, why did Unfriended work for me, but Host really didn't? And the main thing is, for me at least, that Host purports to take place inside a Zoom call, but it takes extreme creative license with moving those shots around the screen in a very filmic way. Unfriended does some of the same shit. It's certainly not all just exactly as you would see it on your screen. It fucks around a little bit with the camera shots and does some clever and effective manipulation for things to appear at just the right moment. But it's more seamless and feels more like it's genuinely just showing you a computer screen as opposed to feeling like I'm watching a filmmaker make a film out of Zoom.
And I have no idea how it was made. Like I'm sure it was a combination of actually coordinating stuff and compositing things together. But
dude, I have some information for you on that, actually. So I did a little research because I was curious about this. It was a 16-day shoot. And
what?
16 days, yeah. I mean, because
I would have guessed it was an 80-minute shoot.
Right, because
it feels like it's happening in real time. That's really amazing.
Right, it credibly gives the impression that potentially maybe they just turned some sort of screen capture program on and did this in 80 minutes. There are lots of seams that you can pick out if you look through it. It's in I mean, not to make too labored an allusion to a great film here, but I feel like it has kind of that rope sort of thing where it creates a pretty effective illusion of a single take by stitching little parts together. So, I mean, we had this 16-day shoot, according to Wikipedia at least, which of course is pulling information from various other sources. There were shoot days that ran up to 12 hours. And the lead actress, in fact, who played Blair, actually requested a few takes where they did the entire thing in 80 minutes. So that did happen, and they're stitched in there. Apparently, some of the final scenes actually come from one of those 80-minute takes. So
she's classically trained.
She's like Robert Englund.
But yeah, interestingly, I mean, again, 16 days is short, but it's still kind of surprised me as far as how much work and time they put into this thing that feels like it's something you could have knocked out in a couple days, The
performances I thought were pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Call me crazy.
No, I won't call you crazy. I think the performances were great. I fucking hated all of these characters with a passion, but understood that it was because of the performances that I felt that way. We're not supposed to like these people. These are bad people. These are bad kids.
They're bad kids, and we'll get into that. But I thought that the banter. I mean, I said, "Am I watching Mumblecore?" Because the way these kids interacted and stuff felt very lifelike and true to life, and the way they just carried on like they were just dumbass kids shooting the shit on a weeknight.
They're dumbass kids. A couple of them are high. One of them is. I was actually kind of amazed. God, I don't remember the character's name. Was it Adam?
Yeah.
Was supposed to be drunk and seemed like pretty convincingly like the drunk dude bro of the group.
Yeah.
And I was like, how does this kid, I don't know how old the actor was at the time, but how does he know how to play this part so well? He just fucking nailed it.
How does this 19-year-old actor know what it's like to be drunk?
I wasn't amazed by his drunkenness. I was actually kind of impressed by the way his kind of cool dude bro persona just devolved over the course of the film, and he turns into a pretty genuinely scary person as
he
things
does
go along.
And also, Chris, as a rebuttal, I don't think I had gotten drunk by that age, or if I had, it had been right around then.
Stephen, thank you for making me feel better, because I didn't get drunk until I was 20 and had a Bud Light and a half at your apartment.
Yeah, but they're high school students, right? Or are they in college?
Yeah.
But you did go to a high school. You did know. I mean, it's not hard for a minor to get alcohol or to have experience drinking, especially if maybe you want
like it was for me
to prepare for a role. I mean, we're talking about artists and artist kids, man.
And they get drunk all the time.
I'd rather you just do it here.
No, yeah, the actor is probably 19 or 20, but the character is fucking 15 or 16, and I was like, this is pretty impressive. This reminds me of a couple of guys that I went to college with a couple of years later. pretty remarkable. He feels dangerous. He's fucking wielding his gun at a certain point and then on for the rest of the movie.
So, I mean, presentation issues aside, what did you guys think about the story and just the plot of this movie and how it was communicated within the constraints of its presentation?
Oof.
I mean, it's slight. There's a reason that we're not going to talk about plot all that much as we would on a normal film. Like, there's not a ton going on here. Like, they're hanging out on Skype. A ghostly Skype account shows up and starts to bug them. I don't think this is spoiler room material, but it is fucking Laura Barnes who's bugging them, and things dissolve into madness from there. I think one advantage that I would say Host, which is just so clearly like a close analog to this movie, has over Unfriended, is Host gets in and out in an hour. Unfriended is too long. There are points where it almost seems to drag, which is funny because it's an hour and 20 minutes, but
yeah,
I think you could tighten this up a little bit.
I felt you. I was kind of, especially after seeing Host, I was really anxious to see the length of this movie before I started it. And it did feel like it dragged at points. It did feel like there were multiple points where it just devolved into these fucking shitty characters screaming at each other over nonsense for far too long. Like, I really think it could have been trimmed down. And that stuff was exhausting to me.
I have a point to make about the screaming at each other about shitty nonsense, but I think it's spoiler room material.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're really gonna have to get into that in the spoiler room, but I mean the horror of this. There's two horror elements. One is you got a ghost in your machine. The other one is your friends are horrible people who betray you all the time behind your back.
So I mean, your life.
I've been there before, like, especially when I consider the people I was hanging out with at that age. This was a pretty relatable movie, I think.
Oh God, I just cyber-bullied Chris.
And the movie really it's really like a little morality tale, kind of, basically. I mean, we got these characters who are all horrible. They're all rude to their friends, and they're all gonna die because they are not good to each other. And does it work for me? Not really, but I mean, when we saw this in the theater, Patrick, I remember I came out and I was like, good for these guys, because I was like, this is when I go see a horror movie and there's teenagers in the theater being obnoxious, this is the movie for them. God bless it. They made a movie for them about their life with this gimmicky presentation that's going to be right up their alley. It's an hour and 22 minutes. You get them in and out. It's the kind of movie where it's okay if the kids who are in the audience are like acting like assholes and laughing during the movie. It's fine.
Are you saying that's fine because like the movie is kind of going to stick it to them by the end?
Oh, no. I mean, if it does, great. If it gives them a life lesson, like, hey, don't call the cop.
That's where I thought you were going. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not in position.
Don't steal $800 from your rich friend, or fuck your boyfriend's best friend, or whatever else.
Spoiler room.
Well,
but no, just in terms of the general, subject matter and delivery and everything, and the mood of the movie.
No, I mean, to get back to your question, I guess, a little bit as far as the plot and sort of how much it did or didn't engage me. So, I mean, in the first 15 minutes, I texted Chris and I was like, I'm 15 minutes into watching Unfriended on my tablet and I'm ready to recant everything that I had said about the movie previously. And that was totally true. Like, in the first 15 minutes, you're on Blair's computer. She, gets on Facebook. She's trying to unfriend Laura because Laura is sending her weird messages. And the unfriend button is grayed out. She can't unfriend her. It's upsetting. You're looking at this thing that, again, looks like your computer screen on your personal device. And, what a horrible... I don't know. It's just I think that's so relatable to be attempting to use one of these 9,000 different technological platforms that we're all slaves to at this point in our existence, and it doesn't work. You know, someone is trying to contact you and harass you from beyond the dead and it doesn't work. I mean, very modern, very effective horror. Then there's a slack point for me, somewhere between that and the fucking everyone losing their minds and screaming at each other, which I did love, where it kind of is just everybody hanging out. There's a little bit of kind of loose material there where we're building up to the insanity crescendo that is the last half hour or so of this movie, and that's where I don't want to say checked out, but where it lost me a little bit.
I never checked out, but it lost me. I was there for the first 15 to 20 minutes. I was, I kind of knew what I was getting into. Like, this is kind of a gimmicky concept, to begin with. And I was like, this is really fucking well executed. And like these young actors are all absolutely great. This feels like the drama that high schoolers feel, when their brains are still developing, and like every little tiny thing that goes wrong, every little betrayal feels like the end of the world. And it just turned into kind of a histrionic mess for me pretty soon after those first 20 minutes. And I didn't fully ever understand the machinations of Laura Barnes' ghost.
Yeah,
and
if I die and I have to like stay on Facebook, that's the number one thing I'm looking forward to about death, not being on social media anymore.
Wait, what are you saying though, Steven? What did you not understand?
I mean, I guess it's spoiler room territory. I don't know, but like I didn't understand like some of these deaths and how Laura Barnes is able to physically manifest as well as digitally.
Let's go to the spoiler room. We got deaths to talk about. I feel like we've set up the concept, and from there it's kind of just like who dies. I mean, surprise, people die, but I think we kind of should just get down there and get into it.
Yeah, you guys are ready to review it. I can tell you're right there. You're right there. I'll give it a goddamn cue it.
Oh, that's actually a surprise.
Me too. Yeah, same.
I mean, your life is not going to be missing anything if you sleep on Unfriended. But as much as I hate movies that are on built on a gimmick, and that's pretty much it. They're a one-trick pony, which I think Unfriended qualifies. It's a good gimmick and it's fun, and especially being someone who has lived his teenage and young adult and now adult life online, it was again fun to kind of see that experience translated to a movie in such a true to life way, and to have a little time capsule. I think this movie will only get more interesting as it goes along because, once Facebook is no more, hopefully that day is coming soon, just to see Facebook again will be a trip for audiences in 20 or 30 years.
Facebook is never leaving, dude.
I know. But no, it has enough going for it. It's the, good performances. I think they do pretty much everything you can do with the constraints of your gimmick. It could have been a little scarier for me. There was some stuff I really like the creepypasta kind of stuff at the beginning where it's like the web page and it's like, don't answer a message from a dead person. I was like,
oh, and I got a story about that for the spoiler room, as you guys know.
That's chilling, right? And so I kind of wish there was a little bit more of that kind of stuff before it just kind of gets into the soap opera stuff. But it's good enough for what it's trying to be. So cue it.
Who are you gonna pick?
Patrick.
Yeah, I'm glad you picked me because I want to follow up on what you said about the creepypasta. That fake forum that they take you to was part of what really drew me in the first 15 or so minutes this time. I was like, oh, this looks like something I shouldn't be seeing. I don't even want to be reading this because it's just going to be seeding ideas in my head that are going to fuck with me for years to come. That was very effective when she's just Googling, what to do if a dead person contacts you online or something like that.
You go to Silent Hill and you try to find them.
No spoilers, man. But yeah, fuck.
You're so conflicted. I can't believe this.
Because
I'm about to start a countdown in the chat.
I'm gonna because Chris gave it a cue it, and I expected him to give it a view it. Steven's counting down. I'm gonna give it a view it, and I think I gave this 2.5 out of 5 stars when I reviewed it professionally originally. And there are flaws that I've expressed already, but I had fun with it. And as Chris said, I think it makes the most of its gimmick. And also I'm trying to game the average a little bit, because if Chris is at an average rating, I feel like Steven might be lower than that. So I'm just kind of trying to bump it up the Amon list a little bit. Steven.
I'm going to give it a Q-it. I really admire, especially for being kind of a first of its kind sort of movie. By the way, we haven't mentioned this. There's another film I can think of that has a similar format that I have not seen, but have you guys seen Searching, starring John Cho? That was kind of a big deal for a while. That was kind of a viral movie hit that is considerably better reviewed than this. So I'm curious to see it actually, but I think it feels real. It feels kind of seamless, like this is all happening in real time. The performances are really great. The characters are appropriately despicable and annoying at times. It's a little bit messy in terms of, as I've said before, sort of the machinations of this girl back from the dead existing on social media and on the internet. It didn't really work for me in the end. For such a short movie, there were stretches where I was kind of just exhausted by it and waiting for something to happen. But it's admirable, I think, as a piece of filmmaking. Interestingly enough, the director of this, probably because he made so much money off of this thing. I mean, the budget was $1 million. It made $64 million at the box office. He might have just fucking retired. I don't know. But it's not great. But it's definitely worth a watch if you're curious.
It's fun. It's not a great movie. I endorse Chris's, obviously, viewing suggestion. Watch it on your laptop.
Absolutely.
In bed while you're trying to fall asleep, if you don't want to fall asleep for another hour or so,
That said, I will say, like, the overwhelming emotion I felt while watching this film was just pure anxiety, and not I think in the sense that was intended by the filmmakers. I revisited a bit of this before we started talking tonight, and I felt kind of like I was bordering on a panic attack. Just sort of the pace of it, the actors' performances, the shrieking, the freaking out over like just sort of trivial. I don't even know what the word is I'm looking for right now.
You borrowed my mom's car without asking.
Yeah, like that kind of shit. But at the same time, I have to acknowledge, like, that does feel like real kind of white privilege teen drama. Like, it does feel authentic. It's just really hard to watch. And I said this to Patrick before we started recording. I was on Zoom for a total of 3 hours today. And now we're on Zoom again, recording review of this movie that is basically a proto-Zoom conference. So very odd timing to see this, but I can appreciate that at the time that it came out, and maybe after we're over this pandemic, it might be a more rewarding and novel experience.
Well, I think that's a perfect segue to the spoiler room, because, we keep alluding to this sort of maelstrom of anxiety and screaming that happens later in the film, and I certainly have thoughts. So we better just jump on down those stairs to the spoiler room.
Okay, well, let's get down there. So go check out the movie, watch it on your laptop or not. The choice, as always, is yours. And if you want, you can go online, and instead of watching the movie or arguing with your friends on Skype, you could send us a letter on our Facebook page or on Instagram, Twitter. We're at AmonCast, EHMONcast. You can go to our website, everyhorrormovieonnetflix.com. You can see the ratings we've done for every movie. The ones that Patrick is trying to game today by manipulating his score. You could go to our merchandise store. You could get a shirt or a coffee mug that says Every Horror Movie on Netflix. Leave it on your desk. Make your coworkers ask some questions. It's all there. It's all at your fingertips. Or, you have the choice to just do nothing at all. And stay tuned. And when we come back in a minute, we will spoil everything. All right, welcome back. We are connected to the spoiler room, and we're ready to spoil everything about Unfriended, the cyber thriller. Eat your heart out, Michael Crichton. This is a techno thriller if I ever saw one.
Wow. Oof.
It's the best real-time thriller since Nick of Time.
Oh, man. Chris is hosting this episode.
Yeah. I'm shocked he hasn't brought up James Cameron yet.
Well, I should have brought him up at the beginning of the episode because I watched 5 hours of commentaries for Terminator 2 this week.
You know what, Chris? You know what Unfriended didn't do? Wait for the technology to catch up with their vision.
Yeah. Anyway.
So, I mean, people, we went to the spoiler room, but people start to die and things start to happen early in this movie. We connect to the friend who everyone hates, Jess.
Val,
sorry.
Everyone loves Jess. Everyone hates Val.
Sure.
Wait, they love Jess?
They love Jess. They hate Val.
I know they hate Val. I didn't know they love Jess.
I mean, they love her as much as they love anyone else in the movie.
Which is to say they love her to a negligible amount.
They love to abuse her. They love to talk to her and abuse her.
Yeah. Anyway.
It turns out very early on that Val encouraged Laura to kill herself after this video of Laura being sloppy drunk, having shit her pants at a party came out, and Laura's little Skype ghost takes revenge on Val and kind of starts systematically making her way through terrorizing and killing the rest of the kids over Skype. And it turns out basically everyone has had some role in bullying Laura, if not being directly responsible for her death and this video being distributed.
And Laura Barnes is omniscient. Yeah, she knows everything.
She's a ghost.
She knows what you did last summer. She knows what you did, not just to her, but to everybody before she died, after she died, whatever. So yeah, she basically, I mean, the kind of the set piece, if you will, of this movie is they play this game called, they play Never Have I Ever, a game that I'm sure we are all familiar with, moray violators and drinkers that we are.
I actually, I never have played Never Have I Ever.
What?
Yeah.
All right, well, put your thumb away.
Oh, are we doing it?
Oh, no, we're not doing it.
We're not doing it. That could get real ugly real quick.
That gets spicy in a hurry.
But I wanted to say, I did not know. I have played it before, and I did not know. So one of the characters was like, "Oh, the drinking game," and I was like, "I've never played that while drinking."
Oh yeah.
How do you make a drinking game out of that?
You just drink if you've never done it.
If you lose.
Oh, I thought it was if you put all your fingers down.
If you put, this game goes on for a long time.
Depends on how alcoholic your friends are, I guess.
It's like any drinking game. You drink when you get one, and then you finish your drink if you lose or whatever.
Yeah,
whatever other punishment your friends design.
Sure.
But yeah, so basically, and it's like, I forget what the first one is, but Laura's like, here's one. Never have I ever, and it's something heinous that one of these kids did, and she puts a little countdown in the Skype chat where they.
I think she goes out right out the gate with "Never have I ever had sex," and that's how we find out that Blair
that comes a little later because it's a very dramatic point where we find out that Blair, our quote unquote protagonist, and her boyfriend Mitch, who we thought were both virgins who were going to share their first sexual experience together at prom, we find out that Blair has actually had sex before with Adam, the scary douche bro who we talked about earlier.
Yeah, you're right. It's not the first one, but that's the basic tenor of this. Is like they've all fucked each other over in a myriad of different ways, and that's the point of the game, is just to get them to argue and
to turn against each other.
Yeah.
And Laura Barnes is loving it. She's just fucking with everybody,
Yeah.
Tormenting. She's tormenting people, a little demon that she is. One of my favorite maybe my favorite moment in this movie is, I think it's like Jess, who is like, "Where are you, bitch? I'm gonna come fuck you up," or something. And she's like, "You wouldn't like it here."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, I like the death scenes because they are horrifying and graphic, but also very briefly glimpsed in a very effective way.
And I love how they set everything up. With the possible exception of Jess and her hair curler, because she ends up like getting a hair curler shoved down her throat. I'm not sure if they set that up, but I might notice if I watched it again.
They don't, as far as I know. Yeah,
they establish the implements everyone else is going to use to kill herself. Like, you know, we got the, you know, I guess we can describe him as the fat kid who shows up.
Ken.
And is like
Ken. He has a name, Chris. He has a name. His name is Ken.
You're right.
He's the nerd.
You got me back. He's introduced early on, like obsessed with his chips and salsa. He's like, I'm gonna make some salsa.
Oh yeah,
and he makes a joke about shitting, like having a good shit because of his salsa, right?
Oh yeah, I think he like farts and he's like, I just made my famous salsa, and he like waves the blender around, which I mean is a little like, I mean, it's not the cleverest setup and payoff.
I love it, and I forgot that Mitch, the boyfriend, was using that like machete. I forgot that he had that until he kills himself.
I did too, Chris. I was like, wait, where did that come from? And then I had to kind of backtrack.
We should close the loop on Ken, though, for those who haven't seen the movie and are just listening to us talk about this for whatever insane reason. Thank you. God bless you for doing that. But Ken dies by like sticking his hand and other parts of his body, presumably, into the blender.
He makes Ken salsa. He makes Ken's own.
He becomes salsa.
One wonders if the Ken flesh salsa would cause one to fart as much as the regular Ken salsa.
I don't wonder about that.
I don't wonder that.
I said one, and the one is me.
I just want to know if he donates 100% of profits to charity from the salsa.
You know, you got to watch Unfriended Dark Web to find out about that.
I got your joke, Chris.
I got the joke. What the fuck? It's not exactly an obscure reference.
Anyway, salsa guy gets salsa'd. Gun guy shoots himself. Imagine that. Knife guy kills himself with a knife.
Dude, gun guy, fucking Heath Ledger Joker's himself. Like, he just slams the knife into a table and then slams his eyeball into the knife.
Okay, I thought you were actually...
You just conflated gun guy with knife guy, but I was very confused about what was happening with the knife. There were a couple of these kills where, like, some of them were, like, very obvious. It's like, okay, hair curler down the throat, she finally shut the fuck up. With the knife, it, like, happened so quickly, and there's all these blurry effects that, like, I just didn't know what was happening. Like, how did the knife wind up in his eye?
I remember that being a laugh line in the theater when the girl kills her or gets a curling iron shoved down her throat, and then there's a meme that's
because the photo takes a while to load. The photo takes a while to load before you get to the punchline.
And honestly, I think that is brilliant. What a way to deliver a punchline.
It's very Freddy.
Yeah, there weren't enough memes in this film. Maybe you have to watch Unfriended Dark Web to get more memes.
Have you seen Dark Web?
No, but I should watch it tonight.
Should have been called Unfriended Meme Harder.
Yeah. It's all fantastic stuff. I also really liked it. It had no reason to be there, and it was really dumb plot wise and from a character standpoint. But I liked the scene where Blair, in desperation, seeks help on chat roulette.
Yes.
I want to talk about chat roulette for a minute.
I mean, it became a thing when I was in college, and I mean, it was huge for like a month, and then it existed for a few months after that. And so, like, I have some experience with it from it. It was huge, and like people would like, you know, you'd have a bunch of people in the living room watching it on TV and stuff.
Yeah, I had one of those experiences, and I should probably be unfriended for this, but I was only like guilty by association. So I remember once, like that month when chat roulette was a big deal, I remember with a bunch of my college friends and roommates were together in an apartment, and we had one friend who was like kind of a sexy female.
Yeah.
And she set the laptop up in front of her. We had it hooked up to the TV so we could all see what was happening.
Yeah.
And these guys are coming on there. It's gross. You know, people just start with their dick out.
Yeah.
Or, you know, they start, you know, with their shirt off, whatever.
Yeah.
And she would like try and seduce them. And we'd wait to find somebody who was like looking to exploit a woman, but not going out the gate with their dick out, and she would she never took any clothes off or anything. She would just like try and like sex them into revealing what a terrible person they were. And then we would turn the laptop and there were like 10 of us that would just start waving and cheering in the background, and they would immediately shut their camera off.
Huh.
Yeah. Okay.
So you were trying to catch a predator.
I guess so. But I really, it kind of took me back when I saw the chat roulette thing, and I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that scene, because it's like,
it's dumb. It's dumb.
It's really dumb because, like, I guess I don't fully understand why that's the last resort, is chat roulette. Like, how do you possibly think that, like, somebody's going to find you? Like, is Blair on her, she's on her laptop. Have we, at this point in the movie, and I might be dumb for even asking this, at this point in the movie, is her phone just not working? Can she not call anyone?
They pretend phones don't exist.
Yeah, and that's really fucking stupid.
No, that's not true. There are phones in the movie. They're a plot device, but you know what? It works. It fits perfectly into the gimmick, and by the time you get to her getting on chat roulette to find help, I'm sold enough on the gimmick of that we exist essentially just in a computer world, that it's like, sure, it simultaneously makes sense and is fucking hilarious that she's getting on chat roulette to find help. I was just entirely there for it, while also recognizing the silliness of it. Because, I mean, you can also ask the question, all these teens are on their computers screaming at each other in their bedrooms. A couple times I was like, okay, why is someone's like mom or dad not coming in and being like, what's going on?
Shut that thing off. I told you before, these games just make you too angry.
Yeah, but I had given myself over enough to the concept that it's like, you know what, there's 5 people on Skype. This is the world we exist in.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a stupid scene. I don't think there's any justification for it, but it's fun as hell. And again, like I'm saying, this time capsule, like where it takes you back to 2015, the internet, 2014, like great. Actually, chat roulette, I guess had probably peaked by then, but you know, it was fun to see chat roulette again. What a time to be alive, to live through that moment in internet history. We're never going to get it back. We're never going to get it back. Chat roulette is actually trying to make a comeback right now, I think.
What?
Yeah, and they're using AI now to weed out the dicks.
Literally.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. But I mean, the like brief moment in time before chat roulette was all dicks was just a great moment of history that we're never going to get back.
Well, I mean,
I do want to add to this, like, just from my chat roulette experience, that game that I mentioned, I never saw an actual dick. I will say that. That was kind of surprising in that exercise. But continue, Patrick.
Well, I mean, this scene also gives us the gift of, like, the true hero of this film, which is the person that Blair finally connects with, who actually does follow through and, like, very thoroughly, like, collects her address and calls the Fresno Police Department. I loved that character. Like, oh my god, they seemed like they had it together. And I was like, I want to see more of this person, but sadly, they disappeared after like a minute.
Because for the first time in this movie, we meet a decent person.
Yes, yeah.
And she's just fucking chilling with her dog on chat roulette because she's bored and wants to connect with human beings for no nefarious purposes whatsoever. Just a very chill, well-meaning soul. And that is the first and only time we've encountered that in this film. And I also love that character, even though they did nothing except listen attentively and call the police.
Hell yeah. You know what? I want to say right now, early frontrunner for the 2021 Spirit of J Award.
It was a nice little port in the storm of hysterics that
Oh, so yes.
Well put. Let's talk about the storm of hysterics, because we've been getting there for a while. Here's my hot take. So in the midst of this game of Never Have I Ever, you know, Laura drags out all these horrendous details. We already mentioned, you know, that like Blair had sex with Adam while Mitch thought that she was a virgin, and you know what, Adam sold drugs and somebody sold Adam out for selling drugs, and Adam offered to trade Jess's life for his, blah blah blah. There's all these ridiculous sordid details, and these actors just shift into they turn it up to fucking 11 just reacting to this news. They're screaming and crying, and to me it was hilarious and so trashy, just entertainingly trashy. And I mentioned this to you guys before the podcast began. I was like, I feel like John Waters would love this film, because John Waters loves trash. He loves extreme, like, teen drama. I feel like he would have had an absolute ball, at least with this Never Have I Ever segment, because it's just so over the top. I don't think it's what the filmmakers intended, but it's just extreme trash in a very entertaining way.
I think it's what they intended. I mean, I do think, I mean, this movie was made by adults. It wasn't made by, 15-year-olds. Like, I think you're supposed to realize at this point in the movie, these are all, bad kids that need to answer for something, and you're supposed to kind of delight in seeing them turn against each other. But man, the performances, the shrillness of it, the shrieking is, like I said earlier, I felt like I was on the verge of a panic attack. I had to pause it and start it again today before we recorded, because I just couldn't sit through it, especially after being on Zoom as many hours a day as I am and everything else. But I think now, Patrick, I do kind of understand why you think John Waters would approve of this film.
Well, yeah, I think if you look up the director's public comments about this film, he thinks he was making a pretty serious film about bullying. And I don't know that it was intended. I don't know that sequence is necessarily intended to be extreme in the way that it comes off, or at least in the way that it came off to you and me. I think it's a little unintentionally over the top and unintentionally trashy.
It kind of worked for me. I mean, I thought it was good. I didn't mind that it went there. I was like, oh, this is intensity. And for me, the drama was like, these kids are in a life and death situation, and we have a ghost here who's trying to pick them off one by one. And these kids they don't have the perspective to put their petty bullshit aside to come together. Mm-hmm. And all the shitty stuff that they've done in their lives is coming back to haunt them. So it's kind of, it kind of becomes a kind of a cheesy morality fable, I guess, on that point. But no one learns a lesson, Honestly, I don't think, even when it's too late, and people are saying, I'm sorry, they're not sorry. They're just trying to get out of trouble.
Yeah.
And that's basically what happens at the end of the movie. The big revelation is Mitch. It's just Blair and Mitch, the young lovers at the end. And basically Laura Barnes makes them confess to who took the video of Laura Barnes. And after a long suspenseful impasse where everyone says neither of them did it, Blair points the finger at her boyfriend Mitch, and he is killed off. Yeah. And we find out that Blair was actually lying, and she took the video. So not only did she kill her BFF Laura Barnes by taking this video and posting it online, she also killed her boyfriend with no remorse because she didn't want to take responsibility for it.
Pretty much.
And her punishment is to be the uncut video in which we see the camera turn around and Blair reveal herself as the recorder is posted online. It goes viral immediately, and everyone's like, oh my God, Blair, it was you all along. Kill yourself, bitch, blah, blah, blah.
And Laura Barnes says something like this will never, what does she say? Like, this will be there forever?
She says this will look terrible on your college application. You're going to get canceled for this one.
Does she actually say that? Because I from what obviously she doesn't actually say what you just said, but I felt a little sympathy actually for Blair in the end, because I felt like Blair was also drunk and goofing off and maybe didn't intend for this to be spread across the internet or to humiliate Laura.
Intent doesn't matter. She did it.
Well, but she didn't upload it though. Oh, she did. I thought Mitch posted it.
Wikipedia agrees with you that Mitch posted it and Blair took it.
Yeah. I think that's what happened.
Well, the nuance was lost on me because we're just trapped in a cycle of hysterics and histrionics at this point in the movie. It's clear that we're not supposed to like any of these people. They've all had a part in this, but
right. But I'm just unpacking sort of the moral implications of this whole thing. In that I did feel sort of sorry for Blair. Obviously, don't fucking film your friend shitting her pants, but Blair was at a party too, probably was drunk, and I guess obviously did something to share the video in the first place, which she shouldn't have done. But I was a little bit like, well, Blair didn't necessarily mean for this to be distributed all over the place.
I'm sorry, but if you're I think when you're drunk, you reveal your true self to some extent. I mean, obviously, people act like assholes when they're drunk. I've done it many times in my life. But if you're drunk and you're taking a video exploiting someone making an ass of themselves and keeping it to the extent that it can be shared, like you're kind of a piece of shit. Like, I
mean, yes, just, yeah, I don't know. This is a fucking rabbit hole that we probably never should have gone down in the first place.
No, it's worth going down, I think, because the movie, it like does have kind of an unclear sort of center as far as the morality of it goes.
I mean, obviously,
for the entire movie, Blair is meant for the entire movie, I felt like Blair was innocent and Blair didn't do anything wrong. Like, I don't even necessarily care.
Because the movie is designed to lead you on to think that Blair is innocent when it turns out that she's actually had sex before, which is a whole different ethical discussion we could get into.
Well, and I don't even know if she had sex with Adam she was with Mitch. No, I know she had sex with Adam, but I don't know if it was while she was with Mitch. Like, that's unclear. If she cheated or if she just did that before she and Mitch got together. It's I don't know.
And that's basically the movie. The final little gotcha is I'm a big fan of this. After Blair realizes that she's damned to social media jail for the rest of her life, we get the illusion that her laptop is closing. And so it's like, whoa, and it feels like your laptop just closed if you're watching it in bed in the dark like you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And we see Blair's little bedroom and then a little jump scare ghost, and that's the end of the movie.
Which, honestly, from what I remember, I thought that was stupid in the theater, and also I was like, okay, that works. I like it when I watched it on my tablet.
Laura Barnes, the ghost, who I don't know, I did get the sense, God, I'm gonna sound probably stupid for saying this, but I got the sense that she's she's not just Laura Barnes. She's this accumulation of ghosts of people who have been wronged by social media. She looks like a hag. She looks like the classic, sort of witch, sort of hag character when she finally lurches toward the screen at the very end of this. She's not a teenage girl.
I think it's pretty explicit in the text of the movie that it's actually the Kuntilana in the form of Laura Barnes.
I can neither co-sign or not co-sign any of that. But
that was my read. I was like, wait, what? That's who's been behind this the whole time? That is not the same Laura Barnes that I envisioned in my mind. This looks like... anyway, God damn it. So tell me what you can co-sign, Patrick. What the hell are we watching next time? It's your turn to choose.
Oh, shit. That was a sudden transition. Wait, I think we need to do one final bit in the spoiler room. It's a little special for those of you who have actually stuck with us to this point. There's a bit of Spawn news is non-news.
Oh, God. Yep. That
actually, Chris, you're responsible for sharing this with us.
You are.
Yeah, I should. It's yep. Go ahead.
As longtime listeners will know, Spawn was the first movie we ever reviewed for this show, and we still occasionally revisit quote unquote news about Todd McFarlane's plans for a new Spawn movie. So the non-news this week is that Michael J. White, star of the original Spawn movie.
Michael who White?
What?
Michael who White?
Oh, God damn it. Why couldn't I figure that out? I thought maybe I mispronounced it. No. But Michael J. White, the star of the original Spawn movie, the guy who played Spawn in the original Spawn movie, was recently interviewed about his thoughts on the new Spawn movie, and I think it's safe to say he was less than enthused about the concept.
Well, I don't know if he's enthused, but he's a little short. He feels the same way about it that you feel about Avatar 2, 3, and 4.
Yes, it is the exact same way that I feel about Avatar 2, 3, and 4. He's just like, you know what, I'm not even... Still speaking as me, I'm not even going to bother to pull up the Michael J. White quote, but Michael J. White's pretty much just like, yeah, Todd wants to make a movie with Spawn as Jaws. Good luck.
Not sure how that's going to work.
Not sure how that's going to work.
Going to be made, but God
Michael J. White just throwing major shade on.
I do want to say I have something to add to this. So early on, Todd McFarlane talked about how he wanted Spawn to be the character Spawn to be like the Jaws of this movie, where he's never seen, and he never described what that looked like. And Michael J. White actually described what Todd McFarlane said to him, where Spawn, the way he pitched it to him, not pitched it because he doesn't want Michael J. White to be in this thing at all, but the way he described it to him was that Spawn appears as a cloud of smoke and like snatches people out of, the gutter and kills them. So you never see, basically, I think it's a way to do this very low budget without actually showing the Spawn costume and the chains and the cape and everything that would be so expensive to show. But it was really interesting to see.
Without showing any of the reasons you would go see a Spawn movie.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Like, the entirety of the Spawn concept is built around McFarlane's insane visuals. Like the main reason anyone ever wanted to read Spawn comics was because Spawn looked awesome.
Yeah.
It wasn't because of the fucking characters.
Or the story or anything.
It was, the fucking gritty, like beating pedophiles' faces in or whatever, that whole thing. But like the number one reason was it was fucking Spawn and he looked sweet and McFarlane could draw a sweet cape and there were chains on his body and whatever. It looked great. I'm just so puzzled by this concept. Look, and honestly, I say this every time we talk about this. If it actually gets made, I can't wait to see it. I'm fascinated to see how this would work. I don't think it's going to, but I want to see it.
I think it'll get made. Because we all watched the documentary Todd McFarlane, Like Hell I Won't.
Like Hell I Won't.
And if there's one thing I learned from that little propaganda film, it's that don't bet against Todd McFarlane. He has incredible James Cameron energy, and when he puts his mind to something, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, but it's been 20 fucking years that he's been trying to make this happen.
Has
pretty
he been
much.
Trying? No, he's going to make it happen. I believe it. It's going to be a swan song.
Are you saying he's going to... What is the implication of that, Chris? That he's going to die right after he makes it?
He's going to die behind the camera.
It's going to take him. It's going to take him
and
years.
Steven Spielberg will finish it up.
He's going to do 300 more issues of Spawn, and then he's as a 70-year-old man, he's going to direct this film and star in it, and then die.
Dude, God bless. Like, this is probably going to be his Veronica, the Glenn Danzig movie, like his equivalent of that. And even still, I'm here for it. And it'll be a cult classic for generations to come.
I love it.
For him.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
But anyway, so what the hell are we watching next time, Patrick?
Oh, fuck. I have a list. I've had a list for a while, and I'm going to pick the most trash.
Yes.
Here for it.
On the list.
Label it out, baby.
We are going to watch Horns.
Oh, Robert Pattinson is a goat.
Fuck no.
No, Dan Radcliffe.
Is a goat.
He's not a goat.
And Daniel Radcliffe
I don't know anything about it other than that Daniel Radcliffe is in it and he has horns, but that's enough to...
You know what? It's based on a fairly acclaimed Joe Hill novel.
Oh, really?
Stephen King's son.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah, I've actually wanted to see this. I've wanted to read the book more than see the movie, but I've been very curious about this for a long time. So
amazing,
excited.
All right.
Maybe awesome. I'll read the novel. Although if Joe Hill writes anything like his dad, it's probably 750.
No, his stuff. I've read quite a bit of his stuff. It's lean. It's not a cocaine epic. I can tell you that.
All right, maybe I will read it.
All right, well, that's in 2 weeks. We'll be watching Horns. Hope you'll join us then. But until then, that's it. That's all we got. You can find us online, like I said before. Drop us a note if you miss us in the meantime. But otherwise, we will see you in 2 weeks. We're reviewing Horns, and that's it. So for every horror movie on Netflix, I'm Chris.
I'm Patrick.
I'm Steven, and I'm really horned up for the next episode.
Oh,
Steven's horny as fuck.
See you next time.